screen. This is a beautiful photo of the mountain view taken from our lodge here in Thimphu during the winter season. So I hope if you're warm there and feeling hot in the office, this photo will start you off on a cool note and also help you to put you in the right frame of mind to explore Bhutan with me over the next half hour. So when it comes to talking about Six Senses Bhutan, I'm just going to see if I can minimize my screen.
Exacto, que será al lado de esto, que es en Japón, que es a una hora de camino.
Also, just to remind everybody, if you could mute yourselves. Thank you very much. All right, this is going to be perfect. So what I was going to say is that, of course, I'm going to talk about Six Senses and Six Senses Bhutan, but it's very hard to talk about Six Senses Bhutan without talking about Bhutan itself as a destination. And I know for those of you who haven't been yet to Bhutan, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to sell it, to propose it to your clients, to understand why it's special, how to go there, when to go there, how many nights to spend there, how you get together.
Sorry, Claudine, sorry to interrupt, but people are saying that your sound is not very...
Okay, let me try to raise the volume of my voice and to speak a little more clearly into the microphone. Can you tell me if that's any better?
Okay, we can try this way.
I'll just mention that I am in Bhutan and I apologize in advance for any technical challenges. The Wi-Fi is good here, but not fantastic as it is in your country. But please let me know if you're able to hear me a little bit better now. Is that good, Berta?
We can hear you, but you know there are some noises behind. But I think we can hear you a little bit more, like a little bit better.
Okay, I'm very sorry for that. I'll speak as loudly as I can.
Okay.
But I just want to mention that unfortunately, sometimes in Bhutan, the signal can weaken a little bit, and there's not much I can do about that. If it gets really bad, Alberto, you will have to take it over, okay? So hopefully I'll speak slowly and clearly enough and loudly enough for you to be able to understand me. If not, please let me know.
Okay.
What I said was that it's important when we talk about Bhutan, Six Senses Bhutan, that we always have to start with talking about the destination of Bhutan. And I know as travel advisors, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to understand when to go and how long to spend and how much it costs and how it works logistically. Because Bhutan has always been a little bit of a mystery. And the same thing that makes it so magical and special as a destination is the thing that makes it a little bit challenging to sell if you haven't been here yourself. But of course, that's what I am here for, and that's what Alberto and his team are there for. Alberto has now been twice to Bhutan, so he knows the destination very well, and we can always guide you through it. Now, Bhutan only opened its doors to tourism 50 years ago. So it's still a very young tourism country. But from the beginning, the king and the government set out a very clear policy about tourism and how they wanted the country to develop alongside tourism. And what they said was that they want a high value, low impact approach to tourism. Now, 50 years later, this goes very well with the current trends we see in tourism, where sometimes there are too many tourists in a place, which can spoil it. The reason that they wanted quality over quantity, quality over numbers, was because they understood that they have a very special, very authentic, and very fragile culture. And they want to protect that. They want to bring in tourists who really want to be here, who are going to be sensitive to the local culture, who are going to be respectful of the natural environment. And the way they do this is by having a daily fee. It's called an SDF, or a sustainable development fee. And the cost of the fee is 100 USD per person per day. So let's say you have a couple coming to Bhutan and they're going to spend 7 nights in the kingdom. They're going to pay per day $200, which means $1,400 for the week. And that money will go into the Sustainable Development Fund, which goes to support social programs and infrastructure programs and tourism development programs in the country. I personally think it's a great approach to tourism. And what you get as a reward for paying that fee is a country that remains, to this day, very authentic, very natural, very quiet, and without some of the more negative aspects of mass tourism that we see happening across the globe. I should also mention that there are only 2 airlines that can fly into Bhutan. One of them is the national carrier called Druk Air, and the other is a private airline called Bhutan Air. And the planes are limited, the hubs are limited, and this is another factor which plays into keeping the numbers into Bhutan small. I'll talk a little bit more about how you can fly into Bhutan towards the end of the presentation. Let me click forward. Why Bhutan? Well, I've just explained it a little bit to you, that when you come here, you can experience firsthand a very rich Buddhist culture that dates back more than 1,000 years. You can experience a beautiful natural environment where almost 70% of the topography of the country is still covered in pristine, untouched forest. And in fact, we're very proud in Bhutan that the country was the world's first carbon negative country. So that gives you a little indication about how careful they are in terms of managing things with a long-term approach to development. Bhutan is the world's last autonomous Himalayan kingdom, and we still have a king and a queen, and you're looking at their photo. They're a very beautiful couple, and they work with a service mind. In other words, to lead the country by example and to help it develop along the lines of Buddhist tradition and culture. And some of you may have heard Bhutan referred to as the happiest place in the world. I'm not sure that's actually true, but what I would say is that the country's development is guided by a policy which is called GNH, or Gross National Happiness, which was also set out by the fourth king. And this is how they measure their success and their progress. They don't only measure their success and progress by how much money they make or how fast the economy is growing. They measure it by things like how good is your work-life balance? Is there the opportunity for education, for healthcare? Is the environment well looked after? Do you have a strong spiritual foundation? What are the cultural values, family values, and the things that you need in life to truly be happy or content? So I think when people come to Bhutan, they're often impressed by this, and they feel for a moment that they are experiencing a parallel set of values to those we find in the West, where we move very quickly, where we try to get more faster. And this is another thing that really touches the visitor to Bhutan and makes them feel relaxed, at ease. And when they leave the country, they're often crying in tears. Alberto, you can attest to this, because the country has touched them in a really meaningful way. So I just wanted to mention those things. Now, who should go to Bhutan? Well, it's not for everybody, meaning it's not the right place if you're looking to fly and flop on a beach and just do nothing for a week. Bhutan is an interactive destination. It's a place where you go, as I mentioned earlier, to discover, to explore, to learn, to interact in meaningful ways. It might be nice for guests or people who are interested in learning about Buddhism and Buddhist values. It's a great place for those who are interested in culture, art, and architecture. It has 1,000-year-old history and lots of interesting stories and legends to discover and learn about. And of course, it's a great place for nature enthusiasts, active adventurers, people who maybe want to hike or bike or do river rafting. There are all sorts of outdoor opportunities to discover Bhutan through physical adventuring. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Six Senses now. For those of you who know Six Senses as a brand, you will know that our DNA or our core values are related to wellness and sustainability. And that's why when Six Senses opened in Bhutan, we opened our first lodges in 2019. It was really the perfect marriage of a destination and a brand, because the country has the same values as the brand. And when I talk about wellness, I'm not just talking about spa, massage, even talking about meditation. I'm talking about physical as well as mental and spiritual wellness, or a holistic approach to wellness, which is something are interested in these days, and which the destination really delivers, and which I think Six Senses also really delivers to the visitor. Now, we've got 5 lodges, and I'll show you a map in a moment. But I want to mention to you all that, because I don't think that this message is always well understood. Some of you work with DMCs in Bhutan, in India, in Nepal, that you have long relationships with, that you feel comfortable to work with, and that's absolutely fine. We work with all the best DMCs. So if that's your preferred way to work, absolutely fine. However, Six Senses is also a DMC for Six Senses Bhutan. What do I mean? I mean, with 5 lodges, we are able to craft tailor-made private journeys for your clients, which incorporate, this means we will take care of the visas, we'll take care of the flights, we'll take care of those government fees. We can take care of the guides, the cars, the drivers, and these are dedicated Six Senses team members. And in fact, or more, we include those things with our compliments in the room rate. So I just wanted to mention that we are doing quite a lot of tailor-made private journeys. I know some of you have already experienced this and know this, and you've sent your clients to us, and we're grateful for that. But for those of you who are not aware of that, or we're not sure what are the advantages of maybe booking a dedicated Six Senses journey, I want to point out the value of doing because, you know, when you're working with one brand across the valleys, it creates a kind of seamless experience. When your guests start their journey in Thimphu, for example, by the time they get to Punakha, the team have already communicated to the team there, you know, how they like their coffee and what pressure massage they like and what kind of pillow they like. And this is kind of very nice. Plus, in terms of the lead up to the booking or the arrival of the guest, it's very nice to have a close communication with you as travel advisors. So you can share with us who are these guests, what are they looking to get out of the journey, what are their dietary preferences, what are they celebrating, you know, what extra activities you'd like us to build into the program. So this is the positive of working with one brand across a destination. And I wanted to emphasize that to all of you today. Now, here we have the map of Bhutan. It is about the size of Switzerland, to give you a little bit of an idea. And you can see it's a tiny country sandwiched between some very large neighbors, i.e. Tibet and India. And it's autonomous. So it's very proud of its special, unique place, and spread from the Western Valley of Paro all the way to the gate to the east, Bhutan, on the right-hand side of the screen. But I'm putting this map up here for you because sometimes it's hard to understand how many valleys you can visit or lodges, how long it takes to do that. And I'll start with the most important point, which is that there's only one international airport in Bhutan, and that is Paro, that you can see on the left-hand side of your screen. There is a domestic airport, and I'll get to that in a moment. So everyone is flying in and flying out of Paro. And because of that, you create a kind of journey or loop, and you have to start and finish your journey in the same place. So what we normally do is arrive in Paro, and we go straight to the capital, Thimphu. Now, this map is not to scale, so you can't really get a good idea on the map of how long it takes to get from place to place. So I'm going to tell you. Paro to Thimphu is a little over an hour. From Thimphu to Punakha, the next stop, that's about 2.5 to 3 hours. The classic Bhutan journey, and the one that I see most of our Spanish guests doing, is a 6 or 7 night stay that includes these 3 valleys. To get back from Punakha to Paro, it's a 4-hour drive. And there's no, as I mentioned, there's no flight except if you want to go by helicopter. So this is all by road. And I'll just mention that the roads are quite good in Bhutan these days, surprisingly well paved and even. But you are in the Himalayas, and the roads are winding. And what this means is you don't want to rush the journey. I wouldn't recommend trying to do 3 valleys in 4 nights, for example. I would say always try to give at least 2 nights per valley, or your clients may come back and complain to you that they didn't get to spend enough time in the lodge, that they spent too much time on the road, and they wish they'd known and spent a little bit more time in the country. Now, I see out of Spain a pattern to combine Bhutan with Nepal. This works well enough, but it does mean that your time in Bhutan will be limited. Alberto and I have been trying to convince travel agents in Spain for a long time that they should treat Bhutan as its own destination, that they should try to encourage guests to spend at least 8 nights so that they can either do an immersive 3-valley journey, and I mean like 2 nights in Thimphu, 3 in Punakha, and 3 in Paro, or to do 2 nights in each, but to include Gamte, the 4th valley, because it's really beautiful and really different. And to get from Punakha to Gamte, you're going to need about 2.5 hours by road. And then to get from Gamte back to Paro, we're looking at about 5.5 hours by road. If you go all the way out to Bhutan, between Gamte and Bhutan, you're looking at 4.5 hours by road. But if you get there, there's a 35-minute domestic flight, which can send you back to Paro very easily. But I would not recommend trying to do all 5 valleys in less than 12 nights, because it's a lot of traveling time, and each place has a lot to discover and explore. And I think, it could be done in 10 nights, but better to do it for 12. So I'm not going to ask you to send me your, consider an 8-night program, perhaps, and include Gamte Why am I saying that? Because every valley has something different to offer. And while the country remains very pristine and authentic, it is developing. And I feel like if you want to go back in time, really go back in time and discover Bhutan as it was 30 or 40 years ago, it's best to try to go past Punakha. Once you get past Punakha, the landscapes change. It becomes more tiny little villages. You don't really see any more modern buildings anywhere. It's a very wild, natural landscape. And the Valley of Gamte itself is so beautiful. So I just wanted to mention this. I know I've spent quite a lot of time on this slide, but I feel like this is important because this is something that all travel advisors are asking us about. I'm going to click through now to the next slide and come back again to the fact that Six Senses is a wellness-focused brand, but we're not a wellness property like, there are some properties in the world that only do wellness. I would say it's a very well-balanced approach to wellness where you can incorporate wellness in many, many different ways, but all of the lodges do have spas, and 3 of the lodges have swimming pools, gyms, saunas, steam rooms, and all the other kind of wellness facilities that you would expect from a Six Senses property. And then wellness is not only the spa, it's also what you put into your body. And so we have our Eat with Six Senses approach to dining, to restaurants. And each of the lodges has its own organic garden where we grow all sorts of wonderful produce, like things like artichokes and kale and cabbage and things that are not necessarily what you would find on menus in other parts of Bhutan. And that allows us to be really creative and offer our guests a healthy but delicious approach to dining. And each lodge will offer a combination of local dishes with international dishes and some Indian and other Asian dishes. And every lodge has different menu offerings. So as you go through the journey, you don't feel like, oh, it's the same old menu. That's boring. We like to try to keep it fresh and seasonal and local as much as possible. Another thing I want to mention about what makes Six Senses Bhutan special or different from other brands. And of course, all of you who sell luxury know that the first luxury brand in Bhutan was Aman. Their lodges have been here for 24 or 25 years now, and they were really the pioneers of luxury in the kingdom. However, and your clients are definitely going to ask you, should we stay at Aman? Should we stay at Six Senses? What are the differences? So I'll say the similarity first is that we are both top luxury brands. Both Aman and Six Senses offer 5 lodges in the same valleys, and both lodges or both brands are able to accommodate DMC kind of journey requests. So this is the similarity between the 2 brands. The difference is the Six Senses lodges have a different look and feel, a different design, inspiration, and style in each valley, whereas the Aman lodges are built to look and feel very, very similar, down to the furniture and the layout of the room. And anyone who has seen photos or has been will know what I'm saying is true. So this is up to you to decide whether you like the idea of having a difference and a variety of design as you move through the valleys, or if you like the idea of having it be very similar or the same. The other real difference, I would say, is the location of the lodges. Our lodges are built very high up above the valley floor. They're close to the town, but you go straight up to reach them. Whereas the Aman lodges are built on the valley floor. And because of that, the Six Senses properties have very expansive views of the surrounding mountains. I personally think that this is an advantage because I feel like you're coming to the Himalayas to see the mountains. And it gives this sense of expansiveness, of being surrounded by natural beauty, which I think people are looking for. And so I think this is an advantage of the Six Senses Lodge. You're looking at the view from our Temple Lodge across the valley with the Buddha and the fortress palace in the distance. Now, each of our lodges has a different theme or inspiration. In the capital, where the king and the royal family live, the inspiration of our architecture is the palace. So we're looking at a very elegant structure with floor-to-ceiling glass panels, a prayer pavilion on the left, and this wonderful water feature which reflects the clouds as they pass over throughout the day. Here again is an interior photo, and you can even see how the theme of the palace in the sky of our Thimphu Lodge is incorporated into all the design elements. If you look to the ceiling, you will see hand-carved wooden panels, which are meant to give the sensation of clouds passing overhead. And this theme is incorporated even into the carpets. Here, if you have a look on the bottom right, you will see the cloud element incorporated into the carpet. And this is true of each of the lodges as you move through the valleys. Again, the view is key here. We have the largest lead-in room types in the kingdom. You're starting at about 65 square meters or up to 70 square meters for the lead-in room type. And all of the room types offer wonderful views of the valley below. Very clean, very light, very open. There's a modern touch, but still incorporating traditional elements. And what's very important to us is that the architecture connects the guest to the outdoor space. And so you have this sense of being very close to nature, with being able to slide open the doors, to sit outside, to see the sunrise or the sunset over the mountains in the distance. So we have suites and we have freestanding villas, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom villas. And again, this is wonderful if you have people that are looking for something very private, or it's a family. These are high-end offerings for your premium clients. We only have very few of them in each valley, but for the special private jet client or very, very high-end client that's looking for this, it's nice to know that Six Senses has it available. Now we leave Thimphu, the capital, and we climb up and over Dochila Pass, heading towards Punakha, and we come down in altitude by about 1,000 feet, or 1,000 meters, and we arrive in Punakha, a lower-lying valley, which changes immediately the look and feel of the landscape. This is an agricultural valley with terraced rice fields that look a little bit like Bali or northern Thailand, if you've ever been there. And it's, again, a wonderful valley for exploring the ancient monasteries, for hiking, biking, and there's a wonderful river that runs through this valley where you can do river rafting. As it's a warmer valley, things grow very easily here. And so we used the farmhouse architecture of the valley to inspire our lodge. And you can see it looks completely different than the Thimphu Lodge just now. It's a little bit more, what I would say is sort of a rustic chic. You can see there's an outdoor swimming pool. You can see the working rice fields just below. This is part of the property, and we grow our own rice, which we use in our restaurants. We have a spa village here. And again, the yoga can be done outdoors because it's warmer. And so that was Punakha. Now I'm going to take you to the fourth valley of Gangte. And again, a very, very different landscape than what you've seen elsewhere. This is the valley that I was mentioning to you, where you're getting off the beaten track. You are escaping from modernity. You're arriving in a quiet valley where it's just tiny little villages and temples. And this was an old glacier. in the past. So you can see how broad and wide the valley is, which makes it a great place for biking and hiking as well. And our lodge sits up very high above the valley floor, giving a fantastic view across it. I'm an American, and I feel like this reminds me of landscapes of Montana and Wyoming out west in the wintertime. This is a winter shot here, but let me take you to Gante in the summer. Here it is, a little video shot of Gante in the summertime, and you can see again how each season the landscape changes in Bhutan. Here, a lot of the guests say it looks like a little Switzerland, and you see these Buddhist prayer flags blowing in the wind and sending Buddhist prayers out to all sentient beings for their good luck. And here we have someone who's been out mountain biking and enjoying the summer weather. Gante is a one-street town. I personally love this kind of place because it's the best sort of place you can go for people watching and to see what the locals are doing. You'll be sharing the street with cows and school children and monks and nuns as they go back and forth about their daily business. And there's a wonderful ancient monastery at the top of the town, which is very sacred, and you can go there to listen to prayers in the morning and to observe the Buddhist rituals that take place as a part of daily life. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the stars of the show. In Gante, this valley is famous for its black-necked cranes. And even if you're not much into birds, these cranes are really fascinating. They live during the summertime on the Tibetan Plateau, but once the Tibetan Plateau gets too cold for them, they migrate south and they settle in Gante for the winter. And they're a very rare bird species. The local people believe that they are sacred. When they first started coming into Bhutan 50 years ago, when the locals started to first notice, there were very few numbers of them, maybe under 100. And now the population has expanded to about 600. So they're a protected species, and they arrive usually in the first week of November, and they depart usually in the first week of March, which is another good reason to come to Bhutan in November, late autumn, winter, and early spring to witness them in this valley. Another inhabitant of the valley are the yaks. These are the Bhutanese cows, we can say, and they were basically the transport mechanism for carrying all sorts of goods across remote landscapes in the past. Nomadic herders would carry salt and tea and other very important commodities up over very high mountain passes. They can only really live comfortably at high altitudes, and we see them in Gante. Gante is about 3,000 meters, and again, a different landscape, and here we grow potatoes and buckwheat instead of rice. I shouldn't forget to mention the lodge itself while I'm talking so much about the destination. Of course, fewer people come out to these parts, so the lodge is smaller. It consists of a main area where we can watch the cranes in season and have our dinner and living room. Our meals are served here. We have these wonderful views, and there are 8 suites and 1 2-bedroom villa. Again, all rooms oriented towards the valley in order to take advantage of the views. Now we're going out to Bumtang, the least visited of the valleys, but also a very important valley, culturally. It was where Buddhism really started in the kingdom, and the royal capital started here. So there are lots of important pilgrimage sites, religious sites of importance. There's a wonderful fortress. There's a beautiful museum dedicated. It was an old palace that's been renovated. It's a great place to go for hiking. And again, I would love to encourage more people to explore Bhutan and give it a little bit more time. because there's so much to do here and to discover. And as I told you, smaller lodge, 8 keys, 1 2-bedroom villa. This is our lodge in Bhutan. It's surrounded by wonderful pine forests. It sits right up on a hill over a river. So there's a real sense of light and nature and connecting with nature all around. That's very relaxing. I always feel incredibly relaxed when I'm out in Bhutan, and I would definitely encourage you to come and visit this wonderful place if you ever have the opportunity to do so. And then, of course, if you do, you can take that domestic flight back to Paro where you started your journey, and that's a 35-minute flight versus a 10-hour drive by road. Now we go back to where we started, and I'm showing you a photo of Bhutan's most famous religious and historic site. It's probably, if you've ever seen a photo of Bhutan, this is probably the photo you've seen or heard about, and that is an 8th century cliff-hanging temple called Tiger's Nest. It sits almost 3,000 meters above the valley floor, and it's the most important pilgrimage site for Bhutanese people. And it's also almost always a highlight for every visitor to Bhutan to visit this magical sacred place. Why is it called Tiger's Nest? Because the founder of Buddhism, a Buddhist saint called Buddha Rinpoche, flew on the back of a tiger in the 8th century and landed on the cliff face where there was a cave, and he meditated. And so this is considered the touchdown point for Buddhism into Bhutan. And as such, I don't know how they ever could have managed to build this beautiful monastery without modern technology so many years ago, but it's a testament to the belief of the people, and it remains that to this day. And Alberto and any of you who have visited know that people who visit and walk and hike up there feel it's like really an achievement to have been able to go to this place. Paro itself is a developing valley, but there are wonderful hiking trails. There's some very good handicraft shopping to be had in Paro town itself. And here I'm showing you the last of the 5 Six Senses lodges. I mentioned to you that every lodge has a theme. I'm sorry I didn't mention all of the theme names as we went along. We started with the Palace in the Sky in Thimphu, and we're finishing here with a lodge called Stone Ruins. Why? Well, if you look at the center of the photo here, you're going to see a ruined stone fortress, and that's from the 16th century. It sits adjacent to our property. We're very lucky that it's there because it's very beautiful and it can be seen from our property. And we use the same local stone to cut the architecture of our lodge here. And here the lodge is inspired by the zong or fortress architecture of Bhutan. And these are these majestic, strong, masculine structures that you see in every valley where the kings and the head of the monastery would live. And here, let me just show you a photo of this beautiful lodge. And again, look at the carpet detail. You can see it's inspired by the stripes on a tiger, of course, being in Paro, where Tiger's Nest is. And these nice little design touches are throughout this lodge. And of course, we come back to the view. This is set up high at about 2,700 meters above the valley floor. You have the freshest air, wonderful organic gardens, and we have a little monastery about a stone's throw from the lodge, which we go to for private blessing ceremonies. Oh, perfect timing. And where the monks are kind of part of our community. I haven't talked yet about the experiences which are on offer, but I did mention that most guests come to Bhutan to combine spiritual pursuits with cultural exploration and active adventuring. But it's the spiritual element of Bhutan that really sets it apart from other destinations. And this is a very important part of the customized, tailored programs that we offer to our guests. So, for example, bringing our guests to this tiny monastery where there are no other visitors to light 108 butter lamps in order to share our blessings and our best wishes with all sentient beings, those here still and those who have come before. This is a very meaningful and special ritual, which our guests usually do at the very end of their journey. And there are a lot of other interactive offerings that we have that come, like from visiting this special family that we work with in their private farmhouse, to going to have breakfast with a community of monks after hiking up to their monastery in Punakha. There are lots and lots of special activities and experiences which are designed and built by Six Senses over many years with our relationships with the locals, which we offer to our guests exclusively, which I think make our journey special. And I'm sure every company does its best to offer these kind of things to their guests, but it's very important to us, and I think we're doing a wonderful job with that. Now, for a practical note, how to get to Bhutan. Well, I mentioned to you that there are only two airlines, Druk Air and Bhutan Airline. The major hubs are Delhi and Bangkok. Delhi daily, Bangkok daily. Now, last year they introduced Dubai, which is a great option. There was 2 flights a week. Of course, with the current political situation in the Middle East, this flight route has been suspended until further notice. We hope it will be back by this autumn. This is remains to be seen. There are also 2 flights a week from Singapore. And for those of you that do want to combine Nepal with Bhutan, there are almost daily flights between Kathmandu and Paro. So, as I said to you, we can help you with those flights, and most Spanish guests are either coming to us via Delhi or Kathmandu. Yeah, that's what I really wanted to say about that. And then the other question is when to come. Everybody wants to come in the autumn and in the spring. These have always been the most popular times to visit. But frankly speaking, I've never understood this pattern really, because Bhutan is beautiful in the winter. We don't get heavy snow. In fact, we don't really get snow at all in the valleys anymore. I think I've seen snow once in 8 years down in the valley. And the skies are so bright blue, bright and sunny days, cold, crisp nights, but wonderful for seeing the Himalayan peaks and great for hiking. You could even get a sunburn, believe it or not, in December or January in Bhutan because of the higher elevations. And like I'm here in Bhutan in the summer, and I've had blue skies. I don't even think I've seen rain in the 4 days I've been here. And if you want to come in the shoulder off season, winter or summer, of course, there's a lot more value if your guests have budget concerns, because Bhutan is not inexpensive and Six Senses is not inexpensive. I would strongly recommend you consider looking at months like early June, August, when you have your long holiday. Maybe instead of going to the beach, it could be a family trip to Bhutan. And it would be very, very unusual to get a full day of rain in Bhutan. I've never heard a case of guests not being able to go to Tiger's Nest because of rain, or not being able to enjoy their program because of rain. You would expect light passing showers versus heavy monsoon downpours. So I just wanted to mention that. I also wanted to mention the festivals. You saw a little video clip on the right-hand side of the screen. There are these things called Setchu, which are religious festivals, which take place throughout the year according to the astrological calendar across the valleys. And if your guests have flexibility with their time of year that they want to visit, you can just contact us. We can look at the astrological chart and that year's schedule for festivals, and we can try to build a program around one of them for you. It's not a must, but it can be a very nice highlight of a program if it works with the guest's preferred timing.
Claudine, thank you, thank you, thank you. We are,
Yes, I have to apologize, Alberto. I know it takes a little bit longer than most places to talk about, but I hope that this presentation was thorough and maybe gave the kind of information that people are looking for, or that they can go back to and listen to the recording at some point, and might help them to better think about
Claudine,
Bhutan
right there,
and sell.
it was brilliant. As always, you are an expert in the destination, so thank you very much. Thank you because I know you and it's a big effort for you. Bueno, ya habéis visto cómo es Claudine, al detalle, le encanta y toma mucho tiempo y mucha dedicación, no solamente con las presentaciones, sino con cada una de las peticiones que nos proponéis y que nos hacéis partícipes, y eso es un poco el reflejo de por qué es siempre tan brillante el trabajo del equipo de Bután, de Claudine y de todo el equipo, que intentamos de alguna forma que cada una de las peticiones sea siempre lo más personalizada y tenga siempre esa personalización desde lo que nos decís, ¿no? Antes de ir a la parte de preguntas, bueno, un par de comentarios, lo hacemos así un poquito rápido. Bueno, creo que Bután refleja perfectamente el concepto de destino de desconectar para reconectar. Es uno de los eslogan que mejor representa la marca Six Senses. Quizás es, si no el más, uno de los proyectos más importantes de la marca. Son 5 loches y cada uno, como dice, como ha comentado, tiene su propia personalización. Es muy importante destacar que cada lodge representa siempre lo más puro de cada uno de los valles, ¿no? Ha comentado Claudine la parte de DMC. Es muy importante compartir con vosotros que si hay una petición que solamente, o en este caso albergara solamente propiedades de la marca Six Senses, nosotros tenemos la disposición de guías y la disposición de drivers para hacer un paquete completo. No quiere decir que de alguna forma, si lo hacéis con cualquiera de los DMCs, porque no todas las propiedades pudieran ser, o no en todos los valles, o por presupuesto, por elección, fueran la marca Six Senses, bueno, pues de alguna forma sería el DMC en este caso el que proveería la parte del guía y del driver, ¿no? Otra de las consultas que más nos hacéis es la parte de los vuelos, ¿no? Cuando vosotros hacéis la petición, en este caso a la propiedad, la parte del vuelo internacional con Drunker la gestiona directamente la propiedad. O sea, la gestionamos nosotros como marca, solamente hay que compartir desde dónde o dónde va a ser el punto de origen, ¿no? También ha comentado Claudine, una de las propuestas que nosotros hacíamos por horario siempre era por Katmandú, ¿no? Al final Katmandú era llegar por la mañana, teníamos ya una forma un poco de establecernos también en una altitud en la parte de Nepal, y al día siguiente, en uno de los primeros vuelos de la mañana de Drunker, sería donde conectaríamos con la llegada a Paro. Siempre llegamos a Paro y siempre vamos a ir directamente a Thimphu, que es la capital. Una de las connotaciones es que no hay ningún semáforo en todo el país, excepto un único semáforo que está en Thimphu. Y empezamos así, de esta forma, para ir haciendo el tour y que sea siempre de salida, en este caso, la experiencia del Tiger Nest, que nos va a llevar un esfuerzo también. Es una peregrinación aproximadamente de unas 5 horas que requiere un esfuerzo. Estamos casi a 3.000 metros de altura, y la altitud, de alguna forma, ya cuando llevamos 4 o 5 días en el destino, pues nos hemos aclimatado para poder enfrentarnos a, digamos, a la experiencia más icónica y a la visita del Tiger Nest, ¿no? Cualquier duda, cualquier pregunta, no nos queremos exceder, que estamos viendo que son las 2:25, nos hemos excedido un poquito. Dejamos 5 minutos. Hay algunas preguntas en
Sí.
el chat que las vamos a compartir con Claudine. Si adicionalmente quisierais compartir alguna duda o hubiera algo que no hubiera quedado claro, por favor escribirnos un email y os haremos la consulta conjuntamente. La presentación, hay una compañera que ha solicitado que si se la podíamos mandar, con gusto os podemos adjuntar la presentación para que tengáis un dossier que permita siempre apoyaros y mostrar mejor el destino. Así que vamos a solucionar y a resolver estas dudas. Claudine, there are a couple of questions in the chat.
Okay.
Okay. The first question is, in the case the groups that might want less activity, would it be possible?
Absolutely. It's by private arrangement. And often, I think a lot of people pack too much in, which is why I was saying try to make it a longer journey with less valleys so that you can spend some time at the beautiful lodges. You can do as much or as little as you like, and we are here to help you design the program the way that the clients want it.
Okay. Thank you, Claudine. Okay, the next question is from Fatima Carriles, and she says, we have a request for a family of 11 people for Christmas, and you already gave them availability and quotes and everything. But she has a question, and it's like, what if one or two of the son like drinking or party feeling? They are Mexicans who like their entertainment. Are there options for the ones that like drinking by the bars of the hotel or maybe downtown?
Great question. Firstly, I just want to say thank you. And again, Christmas, New Year is in Bhutan is something that not a lot of people think about, but it's an amazing time to be here. It's great for families, and we are seeing more requests for this. Now, Bhutan itself is not a nightlife destination traditionally, as we all know. But yes, the bars are open and will serve you in the hotel. We have a bar in every hotel, and we can keep it open till midnight, 1 a.m. If they need something more than that, you can talk to us about it. In Thimphu town itself, there is some nightlife to be had, and we can discuss that and their needs separately. So we can arrange, maybe for a car to take them down to experience that, and they can see a little bit of what local Bhutanese nightlife looks like. It might surprise them.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Next question is, how far in advance do you think it is best to book to guarantee availability? And also, which do you think is the best season to go? I think you already answered the last question, but
Sobre todo, perdona, voy a apuntar, habéis escuchado, los loches tienen 15, 16 en el caso de Timpu y en el caso de Paro, son los loches más grandes. En el caso de Gantei, de Buntán y de Punaka son más reducidos, por lo tanto, cuanta mayor anticipación tengamos en la solicitud, mejor y nos vamos a garantizar. Son exclusividades, ¿no? Y siempre vamos a intentar daros esa disponibilidad, pero es verdad que combinar no es lo mismo Timpu, Paro y Punaka. Si ya queremos ir a Gantei, ya tendríamos más problemas a la hora de la disponibilidad. Es exactamente casi la mitad del inventario, ¿no?
I think I understood what you said mainly, Alberto, and I agree with that. What I would say is, of course, advanced planning is great. It really depends on the time of year you're asking about. For example, if you're looking to come in late March, April, or October, late September to mid-November, these periods are high demand. And for example, I already see that on many dates in October, we are almost sold out. But I also want to say is don't give up. If you have a last minute request, often we can rearrange the way they do the journey. So we may start in a different way and finish in a different way. And you never know if there's a cancellation or something. So don't not reach out. We are seeing like a very last minute booking trend at the moment, and we try to work with that as much as possible. But the more advanced you book, obviously, the better chance you have to be able to confirm the dates you would like.
great, Claudine. Thank you. So,
Hay una más aquí, creo, un poquito más abajo.
sí.
No, esa ya la he respondido yo.
Is there any period of the year that flights have more chance to be canceled due to weather conditions?
Have more or less chance to what, please?
To be canceled due to weather conditions.
Uh, Not really, to be honest, because weather everywhere in the world is so unpredictable. I see this happening very rarely where a flight can't come in. Remember, it is a visual landing, so if there's no good visibility, they won't fly for safety reasons. But I usually see this happening 1 day or 2 days a year. And mainly, it all works out fine. So no, I would say obviously the less rainy, the better. But yeah, I mean, it's impossible to say. The last time it happened was high season in October, so there's no way to really predict around it, and there's no one season which is worse than the others.
Okay.
Y última pregunta antes de terminar, Claudine,
If we have to choose just two lodge because other girls don't want to move hotel down that much, which two would you choose?
serían Timpu y
Yes, I
sería
would say probably just logistically, you would do, whether it's because you have time constraints or whether it's because you don't want to move a lot, it's going to be Timpu and Paro. These are the closest to the airport. They are the biggest lodges. There's lots of activities to do, less driving. So this is the obvious. And then if they have a bit more time, you would include Punakha as well.
Great. Okay.
Fantastic, Claudine.
So
Gracias. Tenéis que saber que Claudine es
so
una
grateful.
enamorada de España. Estamos esperando a que venga en España dentro de poquito. We are waiting for you in Spain.
Yeah, and I'm waiting for all of you in Bhutan. And just remember, everybody, we just sent out a special offer, the seasonal discovery, with stay 7, pay 5, stay 6, pay 5, stay 8, pay 6. And this is available through the winter and the summer months. So if you have people looking for a holiday in August in Spain, you can take advantage of this offer and send them here and get extra value and savings. So thank you so much. I'll end the presentation on that note.
¿Habéis visto que no le gusta hablar a Claudine? No le gusta. Cada vez que hablamos son conversaciones cortas. Claudine, thank you very much. It's really, really appreciate for yourself. So, gracias a todos, sobre todo porque nos hemos excedido un poquito. Siempre os pedimos 30, 40 minutos máximo. Hoy nos hemos ido a la hora. Creo que el destino merece la pena. Creo que para poder entrar en el detalle de tanta singularidad hay que también explicarlo y como lo ha hecho Claudine siempre es de agradecer por el tiempo y la dedicación. Nada, cualquier duda, cualquier consulta, estamos a vuestra disposición. Agradeceros una vez más que nos dediquéis este ratito siempre los jueves, que nos encanta compartir con todos vosotros. Y gracias a Berta. Poco más, ¿no? Nos vemos la
Muchas
semana que
gracias.
viene. La semana que viene tenemos sorpresa. Nos vemos con uno de los hoteles más icónicos de Maldivas, que es.
Gilliland.
Nos vemos con Gili.
Mañana
Flo,
atentos.
Claudine, te queremos. Gracias. Un besito.
Yes, bye.
Adiós. Bye
Gracias.
bye. Gracias. Chao, chao.